October 19th, 2011. On the Spot is back with Steven Thompson, political analyst. On the Spot.
On the Spot.
We're going back, finishing up on Occupy Wall Street.
Goes global.
Goes global.
So back in the United States.
Back to let's take it to New York.
New York. So,
Start out. I want my elected officials, Ed Towns,
right.
Congressman, State Senator,
there you go.
Velmanette Montgomery,
there you go.
Assembly member Annette Robinson. Start out by saying, not Ed Towns, because that's Congress, that's federal.
Right.
Start out with Ed Towns and Velmanette and say,
this is what
do you support state-funded elections?
Good point.
Who can we start with? Ted, are you listening?
Right.
Who can we start with to say, pass a bill?
Right.
Start this bill off.
So the idea is take the money
out of politics.
Out of politics.
Isn't that what they say?
That's what they
get the money out of politics. That's what they're going
to get to, because the issue that we have. Look, few years ago you had a scandal in the Republican, the guy who was buying I gotta get some names on there, but what happens is they were, as a lobbyist, able to buy the congressman and basically get whatever they want passed.
But Congress is lobbying is legal bribery.
It's legal bribery.
That's all it is.
The issue, to your point, this is the structural way to take the money out.
Ted has one of the first and might be the only political action committee down on Wall Street of color.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect situation.
Because he's been like one of the first down there.
Well, he's a pioneer.
So now I'm saying to Ted, here's what you do.
Right.
Start out with your local officials.
Right.
And send them an email, send them a letter. Some of our local officials of color they don't deal with technology. Well, force their office. Answer this question. Right. Do you support taking money out of politics?
Well, that's going to be interesting. They may start with an idea of developing their platform. That's the idea. They have a General Assembly and the democratic way, which is a very powerful, sometimes a little, rusty and dusty, but that's democracy.
Okay.
When they get the platform, that may be key to it, because they'll have to do an analysis, as we talk about. How do you pull the money out of politics so that those representatives are not tempted by the fate?
You have to have the political See, it's scary right now when you open up to the first politician and say, are you for taking the money out of politics by doing away with lobbyists? Because once you say that, then the money that you were getting, you're no longer going to get it because you're not supporting this lobbyist when whatever strategic plan they came up with, a medication, with the pharmaceutical industry,
there you go.
plumbing, anything, whatever it might be.
Whatever it is.
So now you got to go and hit everybody.
There you go.
Find out where they stand. If you don't support the cause, we have to run candidates to get you out.
And this is where they have a very interesting dimension. A movement that is basically the energy of young folk, that not only if they find some issue to be politicized about, they're not only going to be on a voter registration drive.
Yes.
That means that these young voters are going to be on the you used to talk about the 50-state strategy that
Howard
Dean. This is amazing, because this literally will be a nationwide strategy tied into, now we're going back to On the Spot global, but in the domestic, the United States, you have tied into young people who are tapped into their social media, Facebook and Twitter, and they're directed to first register to vote and then go to vote. Do you know what can happen if on voting day they say, we're gonna let everybody know? They may not know, but today's the vote. Go out to vote.
Well, Howard Dean is one of my Twitter pals.
Okay.
And when I get to finish this show here, we're gonna get Derek, because I hate doing that too much cycling.
I know what.
We would like for Howard Dean to come down and discuss
what
the 50-state strategy.
And what's that about?
They don't like politicians, but let's be for real.
This
group has done an amazing thing by themselves, but now you need a structure.
And that's going to be the what they got, elevation.
The Republicans had the Tea Party. Hold on, let me tell you this. The Republicans had the Tea Party, but their problem was the Tea Party got infiltrated with money. Dick Armey is the name I couldn't think of to save my life. Dick Armey, the Koch brothers,
all of the
sponsored the billionaires funded the Tea Party. So guess what? They became corporatized. They're corporate party, what they really are. We'll say whatever it takes, however over the top it has to be to get them to say, I want you to be with me.
Right.
I want to sponsor you as an elected official, and we're going to put money behind you.
Well, that's a good point. And that rolls to the next issue is, look at what are we talking about, the landscape of the GOP?
Just, wait, I'm going to give
Before we get to the
you 1 minute. I
GOP?
want to just finish this here thought.
Right.
Wisconsin, for example,
Yep.
their state senate race came up to $1 million for a state senate race, which usually is about 60,000.
Oh, easily. Right.
But because it was so much money into politics, it went up to $1 million.
Yeah. Isn't that
Let's
amazing?
force elected officials to say we're going to get money out of politics simply. State-funded politics. Then elections. Then you have to get a constitutional amendment
Right.
to overturn, if I'm not mistaken, a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United.
Okay. We're going
It's
to have
not
to
a
see
different.
that.
We're going to look into
It's
that.
going to be deep because that's a very powerful way to deal with the Supreme Court ruling.
Did you want to say something about? We have a couple of minutes. Did you want to say something a little more about Cornell and how he could play a big role?
Well, I think it's very powerful that he's obviously found his traction in being what he professes to be an anti-poverty activist.
Okay,
Poverty is the violence.
but Cornell did this
Right.
on Martin Luther King's memorial, that Saturday while everybody was in Washington.
Right. So we really bring to that because we have a major memorial and a reflection that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. His memorial is on the mall in which he held his celebrated "I Have a Dream" speech, and now he is captured for history on basically.
But Cornell
right
decides
to
bring light to the Supreme Court Citizens United.
and tie
Was that
into,
the time? Was that the time for it?
I don't think that's a problem. I think that why not in the essence of Martin do what Martin would have done?
Okay.
That's not I don't think that's disrespectful. I think he is in the best interest. I personally don't have a problem with that. I think what happens is he is bringing a lot of notice because of who he is, and he's bringing some education because we really do have to get people to understand how this is going to work.
Well, how about this?
Right.
In the spirit of Occupy Wall Street,
Right.
all the students
There you go.
get buses,
Right.
go down to Washington,
And learn their kind of
and protest
right.
at the Supreme Court.
That would be monumental.
That's our day of outrage. Did you
yeah.
have to show and coordinate and bring the students in the colleges?
Right.
Of course, in the 60s and the 70s,
Right.
the students was very much a part. And even though there's students, is a great deal in this, very
Sure.
important in this Occupy Wall Street.
Right.
But we got to bring that in.
Well, that's a key thing, and it's funny you say that because at the same time, Saturday, Reverend Al Sharpton,
Mm-hmm.
Jobs and Justice
Okay.
March. So a good turnout. He's talking about tying in the whole idea, the sensitivity of usually in urban centers, Black, Latino, people of color, the issue of jobs and justice. Because the economy is the undergird of this issue. People are out of jobs. They literally need to look to the issues of healthcare, survival. So from his point of view, there's this bubbling up. He clearly has his National Action Network.
Before we switch subjects, I'm going to ask you one quick thing.
Right.
How do you think the police is handling
The situation? I think it's gotten out of hand. They have a real, what they call the bad opticals. I think right now the police are heavy-handed and they have to be careful because the citizens who watch it don't understand the context.
the military gentleman? Is where I'm going.
Well, he did speak to a lot of issues. We from the break we brought his statement.
We go short right now.
Yeah, we're gonna go back
This
to
gentleman, I'm a former Marine.
former Marine, two tours. I think it's in Iraq, either Afghanistan or Iraq. But 2 tours, which is amazing. You know, he's a representative of our armed forces,
Yes.
and that's amazing because his idea was that we don't do this
To each other.
to
Unarmed.
civilians, unarmed
Yes.
civilians. So I think in Bloomberg's view, he's the mayor of the New York City. For anybody looking at from across the country, they got a problem. They really do because you cannot look like we're going back to history, but Bull Connors, the sheriff, who essentially during the civil rights marches released the dogs on civil rights.
Yes.
So, do you want to really go down a legacy of the mayor?
We might have to touch that in the show with this
We'll
gentleman
do a little
here.
show, a little bit, going
Keith
back in
Olbermann
history.
called for him.
Yes, Keith, you had a very, very powerful interview with him. So the issue becomes that people on the ground, day-to-day people, are still unclear about Occupy Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
But they do understand if the connection is made between their mortgages underwater, they can't make them, stuff is really bad at home because the foreclosure rates. That's the key. I think enough people, but we see in a month, you see this is totally,
It's
they
all
weren't
over.
covering it.
But now you're in Seattle,
Right.
every place,
Florida.
every place.
I mean, Ohio. They really, they literally, they was over, they said in San Diego, they had a good situation in the park. The sheriff said back in the days, we would have beat heads.
Right about now,
Yeah.
I think that military gentleman,
Right.
that's going to be a problem with a lot of mayors when they're looking at this here.
Oh, yeah.
This is peaceful.
And that's the thing, I guess.
The higher ranking supervisor in NYPD is supposed to be getting a 10-day,
Suspension.
no, not
Or,
suspension, loss of vacation
loss of
days
vacation, right.
for spraying someone.
Well, you can't, when we are in a 21st century, as long as we started out with talking about viral and infectious, we are in a situation where it has never existed before. Anything that we do, anywhere we go, it's a good chance that we're on some type of recording.
Yes.
So you can't go anywhere, and this documentation, which is on YouTube in 2 minutes,
Yes.
hey, it's a different thing.
Well, they got him on tape. The guy was walking away, and he came and sprayed them, and they just
Right.
keep.
And they keep it going and going and going. The brother who's the Marine, he's got 600,000 YouTube. Do you know how long it takes to get 600,000?
Didn't take him that long. He got it in a couple of days.
Couple of days.
Yeah.
So your point. So we look at we tying it together: the viral, the infectious, the YouTube generation. So to your point, they got a problem. Cops.
U.S. got a problem.
Now let's go to the next problem.
We got a couple of minutes.
We got to wrap it up. But all we have to do is say 999.
999.
Herman Cain.
777.
777-333. You can't make it up. The GOP has a very powerful situation. They really are trying to find one person that's going to resonate with the country.
They don't like Mitt.
They don't seem to like Mitt Romney. He's the leader, but in his own party, they don't like him. They're saying nasty things about his religion. When you have a person of the cloth get up and say, literally, kind of a hateful statement, you're not a Christian.
Rick Perry had a decent night.
But he had a decent night, but he hasn't necessarily come back from the situation in his last debates. The last debate that just happened last night, problem is, Rick, I think a lot of American people get a little bit concerned when you see somebody that can't handle their anger on television. He looked kind of rough.
But Mitt did too, because
Mitt was responding, but Mitt kind of has that, he's more sophisticated, but Rick, it looked like, I don't know about what you see, but it looked like two guys wanted to go take it out to the parking lot.
Yeah, well, this is
what do you think?
I think they have a big problem. Although it was okay, the confrontation back and forth.
Right. It got personal.
Don't look like they can touch Obama at this point.
Not now, but it's kind of rough because if they're not, they're going to really kill each other. And then he came up, is he a flash in the pan? What do you think?
By next week, give it 2 more weeks and we can really have
So we
something
cut
to
the
say.
999 in half, we do like 2.5, 2.5, 2.5?
Yes, they
All
tried
right,
to
there you
shoot
go.
it down.
They shoot him down.
Well,
They got scared.
The producers are saying we're out of time.
Okay, so we got to go. But on the spot,
We'll be back next week.